laws are enforcing morality, and morality comes from God, who is
Yes.
the ultimate authority on that. How much then should a government, perhaps ideally, admit in their documents or things along those lines, the morality of their laws is being enforced because of what the Bible says?
Wow, how much can you get wrong in a question? Sheesh. Hi, my name is Scarlett, and I'm an atheist and skeptic, and today we're back with Frank Turek and some incipient Christian nationalism. One thing I want to prepare you for is this short doesn't make a lot of narrative sense. That is, it has a certain title, and as you just heard, there's a question, but then Frank's answer doesn't really go with either the title or the question. This short is called What Can Lawmakers Learn from Reading the Bible? And Frank isn't really going to answer that in this short. Maybe it's in a longer version, but I do find it misleading to put it at the top of this little vid. I would play the guy's question again, just so we're clear, but Turek isn't really going to answer it either. So to recap, our questioner thinks, 1. Laws are for enforcing morality, which no. Laws or rules we think the government should enforce concerning our behavior in our communities and countries. It's true, some laws are about morality, like stealing, killing, assault. But traffic laws are not really about morality. A road is given a speed limit based on what is considered safe for people using the road. I know I usually have someone come in the comments and say that reckless driving is a moral issue, and sure, if you are disobeying traffic laws such that you endanger lives, that is a moral issue. But to say a road should have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit or 35 is not a moral question. Or if there should be a traffic signal or a circle or a stop sign. These are decisions based on safety. But I think some things that are immoral should not be illegal, like cheating on your spouse. It's wrong, of course, but I don't think you should be punished by the state for your behavior with a fine or jail time, for example. Next up, the man says, morality comes from God, to which I say, prove it. He also said God's the ultimate authority. Again, prove it. Finally, he asks how much should a government admit the morality of their laws is being enforced because of the Bible? And wow, none. None at all. And I just love that admit. It's like he assumes that everybody is basing all of their behavior on biblical morality, which they aren't. Now, I'm in a US context, and our laws do not come from religion, period. I'm not saying individuals aren't inspired by the religion or that some people aren't actually legislating laws based on religion, because some do. I'm talking about what our documents actually say, and our Constitution explicitly states that the government should not establish laws based on religion. I'm not wording it the same way it does, but that's basically what it does. But I just have to wonder how simplistic people think our laws are when they think that our laws come from some biblical morality. Sometimes with people like this, I think they've grown up in a context and they see that these are things that are legal or illegal, and they have their religion, and somehow they just think this is all natural as opposed to things that we've come up with over time. And it is clear there are things that most people agree are wrong, with or without a religion. And not only are they immoral, but that they should be punished by the state and therefore illegal. Things that we consider murder, things like assault, property crime, and a few other things like that. But note that the structure for these is unlike the Bible. Like, the Bible doesn't organize murder the same way we do into things like homicide 1 or 2 and manslaughter and so on. It has a different structure. Some laws we have to do with business practices, defrauding people and the like. And I've already talked a little about traffic laws. And it's true there is this thing called Mosaic law, and it's one of the ancient law structures. But US law comes out of English common law, which also comes out of what the Romans used to do. And, this really isn't a channel about the history of legal shit, but to be really clear, our laws do not come from God. We have had to develop our laws. And even if we just take the 10 Commandments, we don't enforce believing in a God. We do not enforce something about taking that God's name in vain, keeping the Sabbath holy, or coveting anything. Covet away, people. They can't take that away from you. They can't do anything to you. Now, if you take the shit you covet, prepare to reap the wrath. By the way, the Mosaic law also has a lot to say about clean and unclean things. And our laws only mention what is clean and unclean with regard to polluting, and not even all that well, I think. Now, I've put more thought in this than Frank is going to, because I don't think Frank's point is to wonder about what laws are there for, but to enforce some biblical view he thinks applies. So enough of my blibbity blab. Let's hear Turek.
Because of what the Bible says.
As I read the Bible, God uses incrementalism. Moses permitted you to divorce your wives because your hearts were hard, but it was not this way from the beginning. Because your hearts were hard. The Old Testament was actually not the ideal law for all time and all people.
So much for the triomni God, right? So for me, Mosaic law is really weird. Like, the obsessions it has with cleanliness and uncleanliness are strange. Here's an example. Men are not allowed to touch women who are menstruating. It makes them unclean. Just why? And then they have to do some rituals to get clean again? Weird. Even though they weren't the ones menstruating, they just literally touched somebody. It's just very weird. And then all the animal sacrifices for just every little thing. Even a thing like menstruation. When you're clean from your menstrual cycle, take a turtle dove or whatever to the temple tent for sacrifice. Oh, you just had childbirth? Take a sacrifice to the temple, and it's different depending on if you had a boy or a girl. Oh, and if you picked up a stick on the Sabbath, horrible, terrible, puts you to death. I'm not sure that law was good for those people, or for anyone. But I guess I'm also wondering, imagine it was just what those people needed. Why did all this change? It's not like humans are so different. And to be clear, Mosaic law did not apply to all humans. It was a very small subset of people that followed that. People in other countries had their own laws. Why, if God inspires or inspired our law and morality, does everyone do their own thing in their time and place? Why is it so different?
People. And God was taking an incremental approach with them.
Why? Why did an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving God need to take an incremental approach? What's his plan? Well, his plan tends to involve killing lots of things when the perfection of all of his creation doesn't work out. Flood the place, send his son/self and kill that being. The rapture. I just feel like my cats would make better universes. Naps and constantly filled bowls would be mandated, and there'd be fewer mice.
This is why, let's take the issue of abortion for a second. Many people think whatever is legal is moral and whatever is illegal is immoral.
Then they are stupid. I'm sure someone out there thinks that, but how can you be a functioning adult in society and not know how to figure out that the categories of legal, moral, and ethical are different? Sometimes there's overlap, sure. Like I said, most kinds of killing are illegal, immoral, and unethical. Not all, like take euthanasia. Now, not every place has legal euthanasia. People may come down differently on whether it is moral and under what circumstances. But with animals, it is both legal and considered moral, as well as an ethical thing to do if the animal is suffering. But, just to be clear, morality, legality, and ethics are different categories, and I think just a little thinking on what each of those things means and what things are under those categories would make it clear to you that they are separate.
For the past 50 years, people could hide behind, well, it's legal, it must be okay.
LOL. If it's legal, I guess you do have a right to do this. I think the language of rights has actually polluted the discussion, and in general, it pollutes discussions because Christians often say rights come from God. But technically, you can have a philosophical right to something and still be punished if the thing is illegal. I mean, we are the ones that get to decide who has rights, and there can be a legal discussion, a philosophical discussion, a religious discussion. There are lots of discussions, but at the end of the day, if there's a punishment enforced in our societies somewhere, the right is not actually being granted. Also, are they hiding? They're hiding behind this legal thing. Like, they know it's wrong, which, by the way, I still think abortion is fine. We'll get into that in a minute. But of course, Frank is talking to an audience of similarly minded Christians who only think of abortion as baby killing. I do happen to know some Christians who think abortion should be legal, by the way, because they recognize that people sometimes need access to this procedure for health reasons, and legal abortion means accessing it easily and quickly. I know most states have exemptions for when the mother's life is in danger, But we are now seeing lots of stories where women had to delay having the abortion for some reason because they had not convinced people legally that their life was in danger or they were having health problems or whatever. And some of these people almost died. There are some women that have died. Some have health problems now. And I think it's just ugly. And the legal system is now causing more stress and distress. And it's all totally unnecessary. Now, these Christians still think it's immoral, and they wouldn't choose it for themselves, and they would try to tell somebody not to choose it. But this is an issue where they think it's up to a person's conscience. Again, I'm talking about the Christians who think it should be legal. And it's not all Christians have the same thoughts on this. I've also met Jewish people who think that the choice of abortion should be between the family, a doctor, and their rabbi, and it's situation specific. By the way, I'm very much an abortion should be legal person. I don't see the early stages of pregnancy as being anything like infanticide/baby killing. We're talking a clump of cells for a long, long time. And for much of the pregnancy, the fetus does not have a developed brain and nervous system to feel anything, much less pain, or even understand what the feeling is, or what feeling is. In the last stages, it should be reserved for life of mother only. I mean, once you're in the third trimester, and especially as you approach viability, it's a whole different ballgame about abortion. So I guess my point in all this is, from a religious standpoint, while you may think it's wrong, immoral, should it still be illegal? That's the issue. That's the question we should be having. But all right, let's hear the end of this.
Right? Now, to bring people back to a complete pro-life position, we're probably not in most states going to be able to say, okay, abortion, illegal. We're going to have to incrementally take them along.
That is the end of the short. And I told you it doesn't make a lot of narrative sense. And I'm wondering why the focus came to abortion. How Frank got from, in the Old Testament, God allowed men to divorce wives because of hard hearts or whatever, and this isn't the way it's always been, so incrementalism, to abortion and how we're going to have to incrementally get to know abortion. By the way, pro-life to me is a joke. The Bible is actually not pro-life. There is a recipe for abortion in the Bible. God kills lots of babies in the name of purging wickedness. God commands genocide in the Bible, and that includes the babies. I know there are cuts in this video, but it's just a really weird short to put together. So the question was, what can lawmakers learn from the Bible? Is it just incrementalism? I know Frank said that, but he didn't lay out how the Bible actually teaches that. Then the man who was asking the question, he was asking about lawmakers admitting our laws are from the Bible morality, but Frank doesn't address that either. One of the things I find interesting is the 10 Commandment says, thou shalt not murder, or whatever your favorite version of that commandment is. And people act like murder is a really simple thing. It isn't. Murder has to be defined. Not all killing is illegal. For example, we kill animals for food. Killing in self-defense, or soldiers who are at war. Perfectly legal. Euthanasia in some places. Legal. Abortion, in my mind, is not murder. Again, not obvious. Anyway, back to Frank and his team at Cross-Examined, and what this video is actually about. I think it's really to confuse people on the nature of our laws, the role of the Bible in our legal system, and some culture war dialoguing about abortion. What it isn't about is having a proper thesis and laying out arguments cleanly and meaningfully in some coherent framework. Both the title and the question give us some idea that laws here in the US are somehow based on the Bible, and then Frank mumbles around and talks around and gets to abortion somehow. Are we supposed to understand that the questions were answered? Because they weren't. Well, that's what I have for you this week. What did you think of this short video? Put it in the comments below. You know I love to read your comments. While you're down there, like and subscribe and do all the YouTube stuffing. Algoritmo and his consort Algoritmo will bless you with lots of wonderful YouTube recommendations if you do the YouTube stuffing. And also, if you like what I do, you can buy me a coffee. That link is also in the description below. And I will see you back for something. I think I got more Frank Turek coming up. It's going to be stupid. Bye for now.